Hey, what's up guys, I'm Praetorian and welcome back to Europa Universalis 5 as we're playing as England. So in today's episode we're going to be continuing this war against France, hopefully getting it wrapped up with a favorable peace treaty. However, before we continue the conflict, I did want to take a look at the societal values. In the comments there's been a lot of questions and suggestions regarding our values and what we're trying to move towards. And many of those comments are similar. So rather than continuing to repeat myself in the replies to these comments, I figured I'd just cover it here in the video because I think there's a little bit of confusion with how the values work, which isn't surprising because the way Paradox designed this is kind of strange. So let's say we looked at the traditionalist versus innovative. So it says right down here that we're moving 0.12 towards traditionalists. And that has two different effects. The precise value that we're moving towards traditionalists each month is 0.1155. You don't get to see the other two decimal places, but we know that's the case from the 11.55 down here. So the first effect, I think, is the one that most people understand, that we're moving 0.1155 towards traditionalists and we're getting that value from here. These are the ones pushing us towards traditionalists, and these are the modifiers that are pushing us towards innovative, so those are being taken away from our movement towards traditionalists. So pretty easy to understand. I think most people get that. But the second effect that it has is that it also limits how far this 0.1155 will actually move us towards traditionalists. So we cannot move any further just based on this this constant monthly increase. We won't go any further than 11.55. So how far we're moving towards traditionalist or any other value not only controls how much that changes every month, but also controls the maximum amount that you'll go to just based on this passive gain. Of course, events and other things can push you beyond it, which is why you'll notice that our traditionalism is actually 23, despite the fact that it says it can't go beyond 11.55. And here's the part that I think causes confusion. Because we're supposed to be sitting at 11.55, common sense would tell you that if we went beyond that, like we are right now, then it would slowly tick down until you get to 11.55. You know, that's a value, that's basically our equilibrium, where we should be at. However, that is not the case. This will never move down on its own until we're actually getting a positive point towards innovative. So as long as we're moving towards traditionalists, no matter how much it is, even if it's just 0.01 per month, we will not see this value drop. So when we have something that might push us towards plutocracy, if that's the route we wanted to go, which, as I said, I think last episode or one before that, I actually would prefer to be aristocratic for the discipline bonus, but let's just say you wanted to go towards plutocracy, even if that value is 0.2, that's not going to result in you being any more plutocratic because our current amount that we're going up by right now is 0.59. So that 0.2 modifier towards plutocracy isn't technically doing anything for you. Now, the other thing to consider when it comes to these values is that while they do all have their negatives associated with them, basically they encourage you to move as far in one direction as you can. There's really no reason to be in the middle because while yes, the negatives get stronger the further you go, so do the positives. And overall, these are weighted so that the positives are supposed to be better than the negative that you're taking. So essentially, you want to go as far in one direction as you can. So with this mechanic explained, I wanted to address one particular value, land versus naval, because this is one that's been a topic of much discussion in the comments of the past episodes. So we are currently pushing towards land, which doesn't really make sense for a coastal country like England. You know, when I did my previous England campaign or when I played as Denmark, I focused on going towards naval, and that's because of the bonuses that you get to naval, particularly the proximity cost through maritime and the increase to maritime presence percentage. These two modifiers here are incredibly powerful for a country that is mostly coastal. It'll result in it being much easier, significantly easier, to keep your control at a higher value. So you're getting all the benefits of higher proximity and higher control. So again, this is definitely what you want to do as England, is go towards naval, and yet you'll see that we are currently moving towards land. And so I've had many people asking me, you know, if there's a reason for that, you know, is it for the war in France, you know, to help our army out? Well, unlike EU4, land and naval does not give any bonuses, as you can see here, towards your army or towards your navy. They're really affecting proximity and whether you're going to get the bonus going towards land or whether you're getting the bonus going towards the maritime. Land also has the increase to the maximum RGO size, which is helpful. But I want to make it clear that I'm not consciously moving towards land. This is the reason why that value is going up. I would prefer to go naval, but it's really our army tradition that's playing a large role. So if we just took a look at our army tradition versus our naval tradition, 76.26% for army, while naval is only 6.04. And this is largely due to the war in France. We haven't, engaged in many naval battles. We haven't had a lot of victories there because we just outnumber them and they keep their ships in port. And so we're not getting those victories that we are on land. And so the army tradition, that's playing a huge role in why we're currently moving towards land. A more significant factor is our ruler having a general trait. We're getting 0.10 towards land because of that. If we had an admiral trait for a general, then it would be 0.10 towards naval. Now with Edward III, I felt like it made sense to have our king be a general. He had such good stats, and so I wanted to make use of him. With our current king though, Edward IV, his stats are not quite as good. So I probably wouldn't have made him a general so that we wouldn't have gotten this general trait, but he actually already had the general trait before he became king. If you guys remember when he was the heir, he was leading armies, and that got him a general trait. We can't avoid the bonus from the army maintenance because we've got to maintain our army during war. We're also getting 0.10 from our army size. This is also something we can't avoid since we need a large army for fighting against the French. Now the naval size one is offsetting that, so we're getting the negative 0.10, so we're moving towards naval because we have the decent sized navy, and the high naval maintenance is also offsetting the army maintenance. But my point here is that you guys are right. We should be moving towards naval. I agree with you, and that is ultimately the long-term plan. However, I'm not consciously moving towards land. This is moving us because of the war in France. This is playing a huge role with the army tradition. And then of course our ruler having the general trait is also playing a role. There's not really anything we can do to push ourselves towards naval right now. Some people have suggested that we focus on building the fleet up more. I'll discuss that in a minute. But the only other thing besides building a fleet that we could do is if we changed up our cabinet to instead do the change societal values and invest towards naval. But if we did that, you'll see that the bonus that we're getting here is not really enough. Basically, it's going to push us to like 2 or 3 on the naval. So we lose the bonuses we get here in order to get some very, very minor bonuses. Basically, the cabinet member is just offsetting all the points that we're getting towards land. So I don't really think it's worth it. So that's the reason why I'm not doing this. We also, by doing that, we can't do anything else, and I'm really focusing on the rebel crackdowns because I do not want to fight these rebellions at the moment. So we're going to work on the Lord's insurgents since they're currently the highest. And then when it comes to building up the fleet, first of all, I'm not sure if this is the max, the 0.10 that we're getting from army size and naval size. So I don't even know if building the fleet up would push us any further towards naval. But the other thing to consider is the sailors that we currently have. We're only going up by +5. Now I know that we do have a lot of sailors at the moment that we could use to build up the ships. But remember that each one of these ships we construct does have a maintenance cost of sailors. So we're currently losing -9 because of the ships that we've already constructed. So basically, we wouldn't be able to build that many more ships anyways before we started going in the negative here. Now there are other ways to get sailors, but if we took a look at our options here and our naval buildings, we cannot construct the docks yet. The only reason why it's even up here is because we already have one. We got one through an event, but yeah, we can't build the docks because we don't have the technology for them. And then the wharfs, we can only build these in urban coastal locations, and we already have one in all of those potential locations. So we can't get more sailors from our naval buildings. Thus the only option is with the villages here. There's a fishing village. This will grant you 1 monthly sailor. It also gives a little bit of a local maritime presence. You get some other bonuses too. I mean, some of these are pretty decent. It does have a penalty increasing the local peasants' power. So I could see doing some of these, though you'll see that there's no profit from them. So we would actually lose money by constructing these, but you're still getting the bonuses, I suppose. So that's an option, and you can see that there's not that many locations we can even construct those. The final thing to consider with the fleet is, what are we going to build? More galleys? I mean, I don't really want any more galleys than we already have. You know, galleys are fine in inland seas. They can do pretty good. But overall, they're kind of a weak ship. We can get more cogs, which are the transport ships. I mean, they're not great either. Really, what we need to be constructing is the heavy ships. And once we have access to those, I'm going to build a massive navy. We'll have multiple fleets. Because that's what I want to invest in, is the heavy ships. But again, we don't have those yet. So just keep that in mind, where we're at in the game here. We're a little bit limited in some capacities. And then also with this war in France, we're focusing so much on land warfare. We're going to push towards the land value. We're doing this siege here, and that does allow our enemies to kind of do whatever they want in the meantime. Luckily, they're not doing much besides the siege here themselves. I don't have enough troops to do that one. Of course, in Aquitaine, things aren't really going the way we'd like. Yeah, they're doing this siege now, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they just end up abandoning that again. Don't tell me Normandy's about to attack them there. Well, speaking of naval battles, we just had one here. We were able to sink one of their ships. Shouldn't have taken too much damage here. No, we didn't take any. Right, excellent. So I don't know if they keep trying to exit the port or what exactly they're doing there. But there's another naval battle over here. It looks like that battle finished up before we were able to get over there. Okay. I'm going to do a little quick patrol, see if we can't find any enemy ships to engage. Yeah, we'll attack those guys there. So got them sunk. And then we'll come back out here, because you see Flanders, they've been continuing to try and leave. Let's see if we can't get them engaged. Yeah, it looks like the Normans are going to battle them. Yeah, that was an easy battle for them. And, oh, there's another fleet battle happening over here. So they're now attempting to leave, but they're not going to make it. And so we'll have a nice naval battle here. Let's see if we can't get some of their ships sunk. This is more comparable here because they actually had some, actual military ships. So we were able to sink one of their transport ships there. And so now we're definitely going to have to go back and repair. So finally, we finished up this siege. So we're going to want to go ahead and refill the garrison. That gets them up to 250. So that can't be easily taken back. And now let's go and engage. We're not going to do this siege right here because our mercenary contracts are going to be expiring soon. So I think we should engage in battles while we can. So let's go up here. And we got events here about tyrannical lords. We can either turn a blind eye to these abuses and the commodores, the yeomanry will be dissatisfied, or we can chastise the landowner and piss the nobles off instead. Let's turn a blind eye to these abuses. That'll make the yeomanry a little unhappy, but they'll be alright. They'll get over it. Alright, so let's go and bring our troops over here, and then we'll be attacking the 7100. We have to hope that... I mean, we can see that Normandy is going to do this battle, which is kind of silly. They have no morale. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what they're doing. But we have to hope that these other two armies don't assist, because if they do, then we would be outnumbered. Yeah, it looks like we're good to go. They're just sitting there passively. So we only lost 144, and they lost 32, almost 3,300. So let's go and engage these other armies. We'll attack the French first, just to get them dealt with. Though they will get the... You know what? Let's leave them alone, because they'll get the river bonus. So let's just attack Brittany instead. Wipe out those troops, and if they just want to sit there, I'm going to let them do so. Alright, so with this battle, we lost 156, they lost 2,600, so these are all going in our favor. So now we're going to do this siege over here. And you can see that they have turned things around. They took back many of the provinces that I had taken while we were doing that siege. It took us a while to get that done. And the Spanish almost have their siege done down here. They started a new one up here. We really need to get Spain out of this war, but they just won't leave. We're at -3, we're very close. We could always give them something. Like if we were to say offered them some tribute, I don't really want to give them much, but if you just gave them like some money, they would be willing to accept that. So we just basically like pay them off to get them out of the war, and I think we're gonna do that, guys. Let's just get them out of this war, because with them out, I mean, this whole thing completely turns around. They don't have to worry about those two sieges. Aquitaine, isn't going to go in our favor because they still have large armies over here while our side does not. But, I mean, this gets significantly easier, guys. Let's go wipe out these guys now. French army has left. That's another 4,000 dead. All right, fantastic. So I think we might attempt to engage the French over here with Norman help. Or maybe not. Maybe they won't help us. Oh, shoot. These are... we don't want them to fight. These are somebody we just want to ransom. I had the wrong army selected there. Well, my bad. Alright, so it looks like there's going to be a battle here. Yeah, the Normans against the French, so we'll go assist them in that. And that'll be another victory for us. And you see our war score is currently sitting at 6,200. 1,200 losses to our side, but I bet the majority of that was the Normans. Because, yeah, we're sitting at 18,000 currently. So with Castile out of the war, this is definitely go in our favor here. We'll let them do that siege for right now, while we take back these territories. And yeah, mercenary contract did expire. I did not have any desire in renewing those. In fact, I didn't even really want to get the mercenaries to begin with. I just wanted to show the mechanic because we haven't looked at them at all yet. 45% for the war enthusiasm. Yeah, I hadn't showed the mercenary system yet, so I thought that we might as well do that and get some mercenaries, even if it is really expensive. And that's really what the problem is with the mercenaries. It's just how stupidly expensive they are. It's not worth getting them. Oh, this is like a full-on siege here. I didn't realize they had a fort. Only 9 defenders. Okay, let's go ahead and take over the siege then. If it'll let me. It's not letting me assume control. There we go. Let's go on the order assault. Just kill those 9 dudes real quick and liberate this. And then we'll go over here and take these provinces over again. Get a bit more war score. Currently sitting at 65%. That attacker ticking is really helping. We just got this historical rebellion event, the Peasants' Revolt. Also known as Walter Tyler's Rebellion, the Peasants' Revolt appears to be a major uprising against King Edward IV, his attempt to heavily tax the yeomanry, but also a reaction to the socio-economic changes that have occurred following the outbreak of the Black Death. The uprising, if not quelled, could lead to the sacking of the Tower of London and the execution of several royal officials. The abolishment of the unpopular poll tax, along with executing the rebel leaders, may restore order. However, low-level unrest is likely to continue for several more years. So we can go with it is of no concern. This is going to result in some of our peasants becoming unsatisfied, and they'll join Wat Tyler's rebellion, and Walter Tyler will be created as a character. Or you can make concessions. Lords will be unhappy, will be pushed towards free subjects, but we don't have to worry about the rebellion. But here's the big penalty. You give them this estate privilege, the yeomanry, which is going to piss the nobles off further and reduce the maximum tax for peasant estates by 25% while moving us towards free subjects. So obviously, we're not going to make concessions. This is of no concern. We'll deal with the rebellion. So that's one more potential rebellion that we're going to be facing. Frankly, we're going to have to fight some rebellions, but we need to get this war with France wrapped up before we do that. But I think there's really no way around it. We're going to have to fight some of these rebellions, guys. There's just too much of a problem at this point. So we're currently at 70% war score, about to engage the French army of 6,000. So I should be able to get some more casualties there. And also, I raised up some more levies, so it allowed me to raise up 4,600 plus I think we have like 100 something from our French territories. So we're probably just going to combine these since they're mostly feudal levies. I suppose there's some men-at-arms and plated knights here. Probably just going to combine them with this army though, because as you can see here, there are still some sizable armies. I mean, that was 16,000. Not sure if I think we can't see them there. Also, we just killed that 2,400, but yeah, they have some armies that would be difficult for us to fight with the numbers that we currently have. Yeah, 19,000 now. So we do need to bring these guys south, let them merge with the Royal Army. It's just unfortunate that we haven't been able to engage any of these sieges. What I think we need to do is come over here to Flanders and then put like a small army on each of the fortifications of like 1,000 men is what I'm thinking. Let's go ahead and merge this army, and then what we'll do is let's consolidate the regiments. Reorganized our formations here. So now we're at just under 22,000. We'll want to restore our morale before we attack that 5,200. But yeah, we do need to get them engaged. And yeah, I think we're gonna just avoid fighting that army. Of course, we could take out this 9,000 here. You know, all this is trying to force the French to give up. You know, if we can get that war enthusiasm low enough. I took a look at what peace treaty they would agree to, and they will not give us 100% just yet. So let's go ahead and attempt to engage them over here. They have an additional 1,400. Looks like we wiped all of those armies out without taking any casualties, so that worked out nicely for us. All right, so let's go into Flanders. We won't take this back just yet. Like I said, we're gonna basically carpet siege Flanders, because I'm gonna try and get them in the peace treaty. And remember, we can't take Flanders territory unless we occupy it. And I did it again where I'm moving the prisoners rather than our main army. So let's get them moving over here towards Flanders, and we'll just ransom prisoners off. It reduces, you know, our antagonism, gets us a little bit of money as well. Okay, these armies have actually split up here. All right, so never mind the Flanders plan. Let's first, I guess we'll let this finish up. Well, it looks like the Normans are going to do that. So yeah, we'll bring our army over here and try and engage these armies while they're separated. But yeah, we won't be able to take Flanders unless we occupy some of that. So we got to start focus on sieges eventually here. These ships are almost fully repaired. This is a galley that we were able to capture. Alright, so let's go and attack these guys here. And wipe out these armies while they're split up. So this is a far better way to do this. I don't really want to fight 13,000 here, but yeah, we'll go ahead and fight them. I mean, it's really not too bad. Just 337 is what we lost. I was worried that would be a little bit higher. This is 6,500. Look at the river bonus, but yeah, let's get them engaged as well. Just try and wipe out all these armies, at least push them out of our territory, and then come over here and attack this 9,000. So we can call Parliament. But first, let's bring the fleet out. Go ahead and blockade Flanders again. Seems they have brought their troops back out here. Normandy is doing a siege in Flanders. Alright, that's actually what I want them to do. So first, let's go ahead and call the Parliament. So I know I said that we would do the support the state for Edward IV, but I think he's just a little too old at this point, 54. We'll just have to be content with the fact that he's never going to be very good. Let's do sponsor a trade expedition. So this will grant us some extra trade capacity in London, so get us some money. Yeah, we're going to do that one. And we'll see if we can't get this passed. It's 35.4%. So we can contain banking. Not really excited about losing progress towards one of the institutions. But that's the only way to get this passed, is with the nobles supporting us. So we're going to have to do that. That gets us up to 59%. So also covers if we have any events that reduce our support. And then let's get some things constructing. We're going to start with some infrastructure buildings. We're going to build some bridges here in France, and the hope that we can get better control in this location. So at least these bridges going to Paris. That's all we'll do for now. I don't even think that's going to get us any control, but we'll try. We're going to make an effort here. I don't think it's going to be enough. And then we're also going to get some marketplaces constructed. So let's go ahead and do that here in London and in Paris. And I guess that's good for now. Just to spend some of our money. All right, so we're going to attack this army over here. 9,000. Get them wiped out. Then we'll engage the 4,200 that the French have there. This might be a little bit more costly battle than I'd like. 568. We got the next event for Wat Tyler's rebellion, the sacking of the Tower of London. So the rebels faced little opposition when entering the castle gates, possibly because the guards were terrified by them, and proceeded to loot armor and royal paraphernalia. Key members of the king's cabinet were hunted down and summarily executed by beheading. The king had left the castle earlier in the day in an attempt to negotiate an end to the uprising. Instead, his family members were subject to ridicule but the rebels let them go unharmed. So we can say it is of no consequence. And then Richard, the head of our cabinet, our second cousin, will die, as will Simon Sudbury. And we're going to lose prestige, stability, legitimacy, and prosperity in London. Or we can bribe the rebels to spare the cabinet members. This is going to cost us a lot of money, but we don't lose those characters, and we also don't lose the prosperity. It's a lot of money, but you're also going to save some of the prestige, stability, and legitimacy. And when you count in the prosperity, I think overall eventually it will pay for itself, even though we don't have the money, and we'll have to take a loan. It looks like they called somebody else into the conflict, one of their subjects. Yeah, Flanders has been causing us all kinds of issues, but just one reason I'd really like to get them conquered. So we wiped out a lot of their armies, but they still have a few out there. If you just look at the current casualties, 105,000 compared to our 20,000. And for the first point in the war, we have more troops than they do, at 42,000 against 37. All right, guys, so I split up all of our armies here. So we only have 15,000 in the Royal Army now. So my attempts to carpet siege Flanders has gone horrible. They just keep on raising their armies up over here, and all the other enemy armies came in the area too. Now I have my Royal Army, which should be able to defend all these different besieging armies, but that has not been the case because of all these fortifications. Moving around this has been like an extreme pain in the butt, because you know the forts block movement. And so, like, for instance, they'll like attack over here and then I'll have to move in some weird way to get over there. And by that point, the army there is destroyed, even though you're just a couple provinces away. And so I've already lost 2 of these besieging armies. Another one was defeated and retreated over here. And this is just not going well. We only have 1 siege still going. I just defeated this large army over here. But yeah, this is how we have to get over to this location. It's a complete disaster in order to wipe those troops out. But yeah, this was like an army of 17,000. But yeah, look at this. So now they're just going to come over here and attack these guys. And so it's just like I feel like I'm just bouncing back and forth here. And you win every battle you do, but then they just raise the army back up. So they can just continually raise their levies over and over again. And so every time you wipe out the levies, they just come right back. And so this is not worked out at all, unfortunately. So the key here is trying to siege these locations, you know, anything that isn't a fort, attempting to take it, occupy it. But I haven't been able to do that because I've been bouncing around trying to wipe out all the armies. So here it happened again. You know, I had the 2 sieges going. 9,000 came over here and wiped them out before my guys could get from right here over to there. By the time they get over there to try and engage them, they're already moving to attack them, and watch me try and move over here. You can see I can't go over to that location. There's no way to get there. And so they'll wipe out that 682 as well. Now we can raise all of our levies up again. So this is really what the bug is here. I think it's a bug. I don't think it's supposed to work that way. Where you can just keep on raising your levies up over and over and over again. And that's what we're seeing in the war, which is the reason why we've killed 109,000. They didn't have that many troops to begin with. And they still have 42,000. So that's really what the issue here is, guys. So yeah, we had to do this weird crap right here. So yeah, all of the sieging armies got wiped out. Now given they're all feudal levies, so they're all terrible, but still we're talking about like 5,000 men dead. All because I attempted to do the carpet siege. So yeah, clearly that did not work out the way I had hoped that it would. Yeah, we'll take this location over just to force their fleet out so I can engage them because I'm pissed off at Flanders. Just causing us tons of issues. So our king just had a daughter. We can name her Elizabeth. What's interesting here, though, is that, you know, Edward is 55 and his wife is 54, and yet they are still having children. I feel like the game does not do enough to adjust fertility to stop older couples, particularly older women, from having children. Just kind of odd. It clearly does influence it because they're less likely to have children when they're older, but it needs to do a bit more. Another thing I haven't talked about yet is 8 years ago, Sir Thomas died. Remember, we did not want him to be our heir. He did have a son, Richard, but unfortunately, Richard is slow. We could do the expensive education for him, but it's actually unnecessary. We're just going to do the military education, trying to improve his martial abilities, because he's not the heir, so it's not actually necessary. I'm not entirely sure why, he really ought to be the heir, since he's the son of the eldest son. Instead, it's our second son, Richard, the one who we wanted to be the heir. He is, but what's really strange is that he is Highland culture. Not entirely sure how that happened. And so that's the reason why his name is changed here. Now, instead of Richard, it's Risteard. And his eldest son, Thomas, he is of English culture. And I've already changed him to expensive education, since the idea here is that he would eventually become the heir. But his other two children, they are Highland culture. He just had this new baby as well. Anyway, so interesting situation there. So what I decided to do, guys, because you don't really have to conquer all their territory, I was just trying to do that for the war score. We only have to siege their capital. And so that's what I'm doing with the full army, which you'll notice it is a bit larger now. I did raise up those troops again and combine them with this. Also wiped out a ton of the enemy armies, but they just keep raising them back up. So now while we're doing this siege, they're kind of just free to do whatever they want here. We're at a point where we could end the war if we wanted to. France's war enthusiasm is 12%. It was even lower than that. So it's not great. It's going up here because, again, they're having success. But yeah, if we brought our army out, stomped down some of these armies a little bit, we could end the conflict, but we couldn't get Flanders, not without the capital. So that's what I want. I'd also like to get Brittany if possible, but in order to do that, we'd have to come over here and siege their capital. So yeah, not sure if we'll be able to get both of them. That would be what was most desirable, is to get both of them under our control, and then maybe some of these border territories, add that to us. We got to get this one for Normandy. So we finally finished up this siege. I actually lost a bunch of dudes because my ship wasn't set up right to gather and distribute food, and so our people were starving here. As we lost like 2,000, maybe 3,000 men because of that, and I wasn't paying attention to it. It's unfortunate because they just keep turning that off. Every time I leave the game and come back in, they turn it off for some reason. So it's been messing me up because I expect that it's on. Let's go ahead and refill the garrison here, gets them up to 250. And then we've also raised up some additional troops, got 410 over there. So we just relieved the siege where Flanders attempted to take their capital back. And we got a really good commander, Sir Ferran de Barcelona. And his skills are 84, 87, 100. So very good military ability. I mean, just really good across the board. And he just got his general traits, which is Glory Seeker. Seems to be the one we generally get. There's currently the call for peace due to how long this war has been going on. So our monthly war exhaustion is currently increasing, but we are, of course, getting all those diplomats as well. But we're not ready to end this yet because we still have to take over the capital of Brittany. But I want to make sure we got that protected. And I'm hoping that we can get the siege done quicker because we're going to recruit our first cannon units. So I went ahead and built the cannon maker here in London, and in just 9 days, we will get our first artillery. You know, we had some mercenary ones, but this will be the first one that we actually own. It looks like our clergy are happy as well. So we now got that artillery constructed, and then this time we're going to want to make sure that we put them down here so that they're less likely to take any damage. Now, we could attempt to clean up this a little bit more. I've already retook all the territory over here that the enemy had occupied. But you know what, guys? I think we're just going to go ahead and go straight over to Brittany. Alright, so the siege was successful. So I think we're gonna see if we can't get this peace treaty done before they're able to take over any more territory. They were successful in taking their own fortification over here, and I think they got another siege going in this area. They're taking Cognac. So we could come through here and clear this up some, but let's just see if we can get what we want right now without fighting any further. Their enthusiasm is at 33%, so they might not be willing to give me everything that I'd like to get here. So we want Brittany. I guess we can make them a fiefdom. And then we also want Flanders. And they're not willing to give us that because it's over the actual war cost. That's 130. So we had to pick one or the other. And the reason for that is because Brittany's so darn expensive. And you know what? I think I'd rather have Brittany just because they're more powerful. It kind of sucks, you know, Flanders was a pain in the butt. So I would really like to get their territory. But we'll just have to make up for it by taking over some of these other provinces. Could of course force them to release states, but I just feel like they'll just end up conquering them again, and there's just not enough war score left to have them release anybody of any kind of significance. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take this over for Normandy, and I'm thinking we're gonna take some of the territory here over as well, like that fort that we worked so hard to get. Just get rid of some of these forts. We could also take more of Flanders over, so they're like a little bit easier to take out next time. Maybe take all that territory over from Flanders. Aquitaine, I've been meaning to give them some territory, but I never do. So they're not going to get anything in this one either. So we'll just take this 33 ducats to get it up to 100, and that's going to be the war, guys. So we took a few locations over, and we took Brittany. Now Brittany's significant, so that's really helpful, and they've been one of the vassals we've been fighting the most in this conflict. I feel like we're constantly battling Brittany's armies. So yeah, let's go ahead and disband all our levies. And then we'll need to move our regular army home of 1,300 currently. This is what our fleet size looks like at 17. So that's what I was saying, is our navy is already a decent size, considering that we don't even have access to the heavy or the light ships just yet. So yeah, we'll go ahead and bring our military back home. I've already paid back our loans, so we no longer have any debts. Let's go ahead and reduce our fort maintenance and our army maintenance. Though we are going to go ahead and set up this army to drill. And the fleet, of course, is going to go out there and do the patrol the seas. So we'll have them go all throughout these territories, just do as much as they are able to. We'll also have them patrol that location. Try and get our maritime presence up. And I guess we have a little bit of money to spend if we wanted to see what we can make some profit from. So the cannon maker, so that seems like it'll be profitable, so we'll get another one of those going. And then there's the Spinners Guild. We'll build up that as well. And then let's take a look at our RGOs, defining that we don't want to look at those that are already fully expanded. And London can actually expand theirs more. And that's all we're going to be able to do, so we're just working on the grain. And we got the historical event of the Lollard heresy. So in the hallowed halls of Oxford, a new religious movement has emerged challenging the established order. John Wycliffe, a respected philosopher, advocates for a radical vision of Christianity aimed at empowering the yeomanry while suppressing the corrupt clergy and their obscene hierarchy. His teachings are unique in that he calls for the Bible to be translated into English so that it can be read and understood by the common people. We are faced with a choice to actively suppress the heretics or simply ignore the harmless musings. So we can attempt to stop the heretics. Many of the effects are the same regardless of what choices we make here. Like, we're going to have some of our pops are going to convert regardless. But I think this will be different, how the two religions view each other. John Wycliffe comes to England regardless, and with this option, the Papal States will be happy. Or we can let them be, and that's going to result in more reform desire for Catholicism, and many countries are going to be very upset with us. We're going to go ahead and stop the heretics and then attempt to convert them. If we take a look at just how many people were converted, I don't know if it hasn't taken effect yet because it's not on here. 99.8% Catholic, 0.2% Jewish. Yeah, usually it takes like the month before they update these screens. Yeah, 7.64%. So 233,000 that we would have to convert. But now all of our bonuses to conversion are actually having an effect. Actually forgot there's a few things I wanted to do with our subjects. So with the Irish, we're going to go ahead and force them to pay us additional tribute. So this will result in them getting more liberty desire, and it's going to decrease their opinion of us. But we don't care. We're going to do it anyways. And so that does result in them being a little bit disloyal, which generates less money. Maybe here in a month we can improve their opinion a little bit. I think we got pretty close to maxing that out, so I don't know if that'll allow us to do it or not. The other thing we need to do is we got this territory that we got that I didn't actually intend for us to keep. We're going to give it over to our subjects. So the first is going to Normandy, and we are going to sell it to them rather than just give it to them, because why not? Why would we not want to get the money out of them? So that's 265. And with this extra money, we actually could adopt the institution of banking. All right, well, we're going to get more money because I have a few other territories that I want to grant, but we won't be able to do that until after we get some diplomats. So you know what, let's go ahead and increase our diplomatic spending a bit so that we'll get those a bit faster. Maybe like a quarter of diplomats per month here. And then we are going to invest in this institution, the banking. Now we could wait in order to save that money, but let's go ahead and get it, guys, because banking has some really good technologies. And just so happens we just finished up our research as well. So now we're going to work on some of these techs that were unlocked from the banking. So the first one is bank interest reduction and an increase in total loan capacity. So that's, you know, a little bit helpful. Whenever we take the loans, we'll pay less in interest. Minting threshold, that's great. Hot promotion speed, some really good stuff here, guys. Market attraction increased, trade maritime advantage, the pound lock canals. Going to be a lot of things for increasing maritime presence, control, and the proximity. This building also increases our market attraction. So when you combine that with the shrewd commerce, our markets will get a lot more locations in them. The counting house, great way to get some increased crown power. Bureaucracy, so that we can move towards centralization. Can also construct the roads a bit quicker. But as you can see, there's a lot of great stuff there. However, since we wanted to start working on our fleet, we're going to go this route first. This will also increase our trade and naval range. And then this will allow us to get the dock for increased monthly sailors. So this is really important. If you want to be able to build a large fleet, you need those extra sailors. And also it gives the harbor capacity. So that's great too. Not doing the exploration yet, so don't have to worry about that. We're going to want the heavy ships. The first one is the early Correa there. This is the first of the light ships. So as you'd expect, these are not as powerful as the heavy ships. They don't have as many cannons, so they don't do as much damage, nor can they take as much damage. But they are faster, so they have the increased combat speed and the increased movement speed. They also have better initiative. And really what the point of these are is that they're really good at maritime presence and at the blockade capacity. So they're actually better than the heavy ships at increasing the maritime presence and the blockade capacity, as you can see there. Not significantly better with the maritime presence, but twice as good when it comes to blockading. So we'll eventually want to get those, but for right now, let's just get the heavy ships. The protected harbor, that's helpful for the harbor capacity, also reduces the naval attrition, but there's too many things that we need for us to work on those yet. I think after we get the heavy ships and the docks, of course, we should start moving down this route. We'll get the minting threshold, and there's so much good stuff here. I'm not sure we'll get first. So I'll have to think on that. We've got 5 techs set up, so that'll take us a while to get those researched. We also have some building that we can do. Let me see if there's anything really profitable here. Looks like the Tools Guild, constructing that in London would be helpful. Getting that Spinners Guild as well. So most of these are going to be built in London, since that's where you earn all your profit. We could spread out some of these things, and then we'll switch over to RGOs with the rest of our money. Again, just really wish they would keep that saved for us. Yeah, we're still good on workers. And that's all our money. So we're here in January 1390, which is the point I wanted to get to before we ended today's episode. But we do have a couple things we need to do. So we still have the territory that we wanted to sell to our subjects. So let's first sell this location. And we'll get as much as we can, so that's 55. And again, we'll probably sell, I don't know, I think we're going to sell these two to them as well. But of course, kind of slowed by the fact that, you know, you're limited by the diplomats. But we'll also sell these guys some territory, because we don't have any control over this anyways. And it makes them stronger, so they'll be able to get more levies from this territory. And they'll also be able to pay us more money too. So we still have, I think we're going to sell all this to these two subjects, so that this here will remain in our control. You know, just the area around Paris. And of course, we're keeping all this as well. Eventually, we'll give this territory back to Flanders once Flanders is our subject. We can also do a parliament, so let's go ahead and do that now. And I'm really glad that this one popped up, expand our armories. So what's great about this one is that you can get the armories for half the price. Normally it cost us about 70 something. And so it's gonna build a bunch of armories, so you gotta have the money when it finishes, or else you'll go in debt for that. So might not want to spend this money till the parliament's done. But yeah, this is one way to get it faster, and your manpower increases by 50% while this is being debated. So it's one way to really build up a bit of manpower as well. So with all those additional armories, we'll definitely have to further build up our troops, our regular army, get them increased in size for the next war against France, which we won't be able to do until 1396. So it's going to be about six and a half more years. And hopefully that would be the last one before the end of the 100 Years' War. Let me just take a look at where we stand. One more peace treaty will allow us to win the 100 Years' War. We need 130 locations or more than that. So I guess 131. And we currently sit at 120. So I don't see any reason why we can't get that in the next peace treaty. And that'll allow us to finish up this 100 Years' War. So I hope you guys did enjoy today's episode. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment. Do hope to see you guys on the next one, and thanks for watching.